Hey gang, welcome to FoundFlix. Sony tries making a Spider-Man movie once again with Spider-Man Homecoming, but this time they have a helping hand from the all-powerful Marvel Studios behind the scenes. Fortunately, Homecoming is a great movie and is by far the best of the on-screen Spider-Man films. It's a winning combination of teen comedy and comic book movie that works amazingly well. Even with Tony Stark shoehorned into the plot, Homecoming stands more on its own than typical Marvel films, though of course it does have the requisite two post-credit scenes. There's also a bunch of cool Easter eggs and references to the comics that pop up in the movie too. So let's dive into all of that in my look at Spider-Man Homecoming. Let's start by breaking down the post-credit scenes. Homecoming ends with Toomes / the Vulture's final heist on Tony Stark's jet full of goodies thwarted by Spider-Man, leaving Toomes tied up to be later found by Happy Hogan. And the first post-credit scene shows us a bit more on Toomes' fate now in prison. He comes across Mac, also known as the Scorpion, another criminal who is seeking revenge on Spider-Man for getting him permanently injured, and also mentions some friends of his who want Parker too. This is most likely a reference to the Sinister Six, a team-up of Spider-Man's rogue gallery that has been attempted to be turned into a film for years. Mac also says he heard a rumor that Toomes knows Spider-Man's identity, but Toomes denies this, saying if he knew who he was, he would be dead already. We see that Toomes has a kind of honor system in the film, and since Peter saved his life, he chooses to not expose his identity to Mac. The second post-credit scene features another appearance by Captain America, who pops up in the film via pre-recorded educational videos, which are all absolutely hysterical. These seem to have been done around the time of the first Avengers based on his costume scene, and you know, before he was a war criminal. He shows up once more at the end to basically troll the audience, giving us a speech about the importance of patience, and how it can feel like you wait forever for something only to be disappointed in the end. This is an obvious nod to the Marvel-obsessed fandom like myself that were hoping for some kind of tease for the next Avengers film, but Marvel is clearly keen on not releasing any information on that for now. Regardless, it was still a really funny tag for the movie, especially with Cap muttering at the end, "How many more of these do we have to do?" So that's it for the post-credit scenes, but where does Spider-Man go after Homecoming? Let's look at the future of Spider-Man in the MCU, which has been recently confirmed by Kevin Feige. Feige says he sees a 5-film arc for Spider-Man's storyline, which doesn't mean 5 separate movies. The first in the story arc was Spider-Man's debut MCU appearance in Captain America Civil War, then Homecoming, followed by the next 2 Avengers, finally culminating in the 5th entry, which will act as a sequel to Homecoming. In the way that the events of Civil War directly inform the opening of Homecoming and his state of mind as he goes back to high school, so too will the events of the next 2 Avengers movies as he continues with high school. This original 22 movie arc ends with the untitled Avengers in May of 2019, and then 2 months later it will be Peter and Spider-Man that usher us into the aftermath and how things will proceed from there. We know that the upcoming Avengers sequels are sure to have huge repercussions for the MCU going forward, possibly featuring both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans' final appearances in the franchise. And it looks like Peter will be the one that has to deal with the aftermath of that in the sequel to Homecoming, which will act as the climax of his storyline, as well as showing us the very new state of the MCU after Avengers 4. Now on to the Easter eggs. Donald Glover, who at one point expressed interest in playing Spider-Man, shows up in Homecoming playing the uncle of another important character from the comics. Peter uses his suit capabilities, and we learn that his identity is Aaron Davis, who is the uncle to Miles Morales, also known as the second Ultimate Spider-Man, as Davis mentions not wanting the alien weapons around because he has a nephew living in the neighborhood. Aaron Davis also becomes the Prowler, a minor villain in the comics, and it starts setting up that potential future for the character here. When the weapons dealers mention having advanced climbing gear, Davis looks especially interested. This is due to climbing being one of the Prowler's signature traits. Phineas Mason, the member of Toomes' crew that engineers the alien tech-based weapons, is better known in the comics as the Tinkerer. He is never called that in the movie, but does have similar characteristics to the original character. He is said to have an almost superhuman gift for engineering and the ability to create sophisticated weapons out of mere spare parts, something we see him doing in Homecoming. There are 2 Shockers in the movie, each respectively wearing a power glove fueled by alien tech. The first to wield it is Jackson Bryce, who in the comics was called Montana since he is from Montana and had more of a cowboy theme to the character. Bryce is killed and the real Shocker, Herman Schultz, takes over. The Shocker is known for his superpowered suit, which sends out shock waves of energy to open safes and other villainous uses. Mac Gargan is a criminal with a scorpion tattoo on his neck, first seen attempting to make a deal with Toomes for weapons on the Staten Island ferry. Spider-Man stops the deal and clearly Mac is holding a grudge. Mac is better known as the classic Scorpion villain from the comics, who will no doubt be giving Peter trouble in a sequel down the line. In the comics, Mac later bonds with the symbiote and becomes the second incarnation of Venom, but we probably won't be seeing that happening anytime soon. Betty Brant in the comics was first introduced as a secretary to J. Jonah Jameson at the Daily Bugle and went on to become a top reporter for the paper. She was played as an adult by Elizabeth Banks in the original Spider-Man trilogy. In Homecoming, Betty is a classmate of Peter's and the co-host of the high school's news program, so it looks like she's already getting an early start on that reporting career. In a pretty amusing casting choice, Homecoming has Kenneth Choi playing Principal Morita, who also played Jim Morita, one of the Howling Commandos back in Captain America: The First Avenger. Principal Morita, it turns out, is actually a descendant of Jim's, and we see a photo of Jim as well as some medals of honor in his office to tie together the connection between the two. Peter is given a sophisticated new Spider-Man suit by Stark, chock full of all kinds of features, including an AI voice system similar to his own Jarvis. But Peter's voice is a woman who he names Karen, and she is played by Jennifer Connelly. It wasn't known that she was part of the cast until very recently, and it was a surprise to hear her show up in a cameo. It's interesting as Connelly is actually married to Paul Bettany, known of course for playing Jarvis and later Vision in the series. Maybe we'll have Connelly also show up in physical form at some point. One of the most iconic moments of the original Spider-Man is the upside-down kiss shared between Peter and MJ after he saves her in an alley. And in Homecoming, we get a funny reframing of that scene. Here, Spider-Man saves Liz at the Washington Monument, dangling upside down in front of her. His suit's AI Karen urges him to kiss her, and it looks like we're about to have a recreation of that iconic moment. But before the kiss, Peter's web suddenly drags him down into the elevator shaft. So close, Pete. Early in the film, we meet Toomes and his crew cleaning up from the aftermath of the battle for New York, seeing down Chitauri vehicles as well as one of their giant space worms. Then representatives of Stark's Department of Damage Control show up, led by Tyne Daly wearing the same green outfit her character Anne-Marie Hogg does in the comics. They take over the cleanup from Toomes, which leads to his becoming the Vulture out of desperation. The DODC was featured in its own comic as well, whose first issue featured none other than Spider-Man on the cover. We know there's a Damage Control TV series which will be a comedy coming soon, and this gives us our first look at the organization. In one of Peter's classrooms, we see several portraits of notable scientists throughout the ages like Darwin and Edison. But of more interest is the picture on the end of Bruce Banner, who must be recognized here for his important work with gamma radiation. A lot of Homecoming plays like an homage to 80s teen comedies, and one scene pays specific reference to the classic Ferris Bueller's Day Off. In that film, Ferris rushes home across his neighborhood, heading through backyards and jumping fences in a desperate attempt to get back home before his parents. In Homecoming, Peter does something similar. Without any skyscrapers to sling on, he is forced to make his way through the neighborhood and several backyards, just as in Ferris Bueller. And even at one point, we see a TV playing the same scene from the movie. Tony's got a ton of stuff in storage that's being moved to the new Avengers facility in upstate New York. At one point, Happy goes through a checklist mentioning the Hulkbuster armor, a new shield for Cap, and Thor's magic belt, which I won't even try to pronounce. The belt enhances Thor's strength and could come into play in a future film, as his iconic hammer Mjolnir will be broken in Thor Ragnarok. Tony also has another interesting addition to his collection, the head of Ultron. Ultron was the major villain in Avengers 2, and it's amusing seeing his head being stored away in a box somewhere. When it's found, they aren't exactly interested in it either, tossing it away casually with little care about what it is. Alright guys, that'll do it for my look at the post-credit scenes and favorite Easter eggs in Spider-Man Homecoming. What did you guys think of the movie? And what other cool Easter eggs did you guys spot? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.